Hello guys, welcome to Top Anime Sensei. This video is the continuation video after the military attaché. So if you have not watched it, then please watch it. The link is in the description. So without any further delay, let's start. But before we start, please like, subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. That is not something worthy of your praise, Benimaru answered, looking rather abashed. The Western Reserve Force, a force of 150,000 men was truly impressive. But if we dispatched them all to the Western nations at the same time, then even this many people would be insufficient. If they could secure some concessions, they'd be able to make enough money to feed themselves. I'd never expect this to happen, but I was pleased about the good news. Nonetheless, on to the next order of business. Now that we got the Western Reserve Force cleared up, what's this mixed Majin Corps? There's 30,000 in total. Are we conscripting monsters from the Great Jura Forest? It's a corps composed mostly of Majins, who were under Claimant. Geld had them working as prisoners of war, but I picked out and borrowed those who were decent at fighting. At the same time, the High Orcs, who had nothing to do after completing their construction work, filled in the missing gaps. Based on what Benimaru shared, he was taking proper precautions so that the progress rate of Geld's construction projects wasn't negatively affected. In that case, good. It would have been better if the corps were made up of experienced fighters rather than a bunch of amateurs. However, I thought they weren't being cooperative. The majority of Claimant's men were rank B, but there were a few of them that were over rank A. They were a fairly strong group, but as a corps, they were clearly weak. Monsters who only followed orders out of fear were obviously no match for trained professional soldiers. Gathering them now, just like that, I don't think there was enough time to give them any military training. Thanks to Geld, none of them are selfish miscreants anymore. Besides, even if there were someone that's stupid, I would have personally shut them up. Well, yeah, it's easy for Benimaru to subdue people by force, but, you know, they just got used to the job. So forcing them to fight is kinda, although I was reluctant. Benimaru quickly reassured me. This is something they've been saying. We want Rimuru-sama to see that we can be useful too. Benimaru said something unexpected. Those selfish Majins had volunteered to help on their own accord. Good food, good friends, bosses who rely on them, and rewarding work. They kept going on and on about how their strength should be used to protect all of this. Seriously, this was a happy little miscalculation, and their offer was very helpful. Conscripted troops were of no use in actual warfare. Sometimes, it was unavoidable for the sake of national defense, but other times, it was wiser to surrender unconditionally when weighing both costs and benefits. I couldn't bear the thought of being a slave to another country, but if it were only about being heavily taxed as a vassal state, temporarily bowing your head and secretly plotting your revenge was always an option. I was trying to play it cool, saying it like that, but the point was that they could wait patiently for their chance at vengeance. There was also the option of willfully accepting the slight losses so long as the invaders didn't commit extremely atrocious acts. But that wasn't an excuse to ignore the feelings of the citizens, who originally lived in that country. Those people should be responsible for choosing their own future. As a ruler, you could only respond to those feelings. That was why I felt conscription was the worst way to go about it, and that patriotism should never be forced. Tempest was a country under my protection. I had no intention of obeying outside influences who made arrogant demands. If we didn't intend to relinquish our rights easily, there would always be disagreements. Furthermore, if the other side refused to give in, then war was an inevitability. It would be such a pain being antagonized. For me, if they didn't have the will to defend their own country, then I wouldn't mind if they simply ran away. I shouldn't get the wrong idea about who I'm supposed to be protecting. It was only natural that my priority should be the citizens that I shared hardships with since the founding of this nation. And I had no intention of taking care of freeloaders that came later and purely insisted on their rights. If I had nobody to protect, then I would flee as well. In that case, I'd just go off and create a new country somewhere else with like-minded friends again. For me, this land itself wasn't something I needed to cling on to. However, as long as everyone loved our home, Tempest, I would do everything in my power to meet their expectations. Regardless of what kind of foreign enemy they are, I will crush them with all my might. Even if the enemy were the Demon Lord Guy, I'm prepared to kill him no matter what it takes. Well, Guy was horrifying, so I hoped it wouldn't come to that. I could sense their motivation, and I'm sure their feelings are genuine. Besides, people from all over the Great Jura Forest have heard rumors of the upcoming war, and have offered their assistance. This mixed Majin Corps is the unit that brought them all together. Benimaru then added with a wry smile. Although I have removed the weaklings. Yeah, that's great. With this move, they could really do their best. The thought made me glad. Lastly, we had the Volunteer Corps. This was a unit derived from humans residing in Tempest and neighboring countries. In any case, if we were defeated, the nations surrounding the Great Jura Forest would also surely fall. Because of that, it was better to cooperate with us from the beginning, and so a group of people had gathered to offer their full support. Most of them were adventurers and mercenaries. It seemed that many of the immigrants we had accepted also volunteered. A lot of the idiots who risked their lives to explore the dungeon, who fed our monster avatars every time, also joined. The total number of these people was 20,000, and while we couldn't expect too much from them, they were still a considerable force. Well, that's everything on the left wing. The only difference between the right and the left wings is the level of loyalty to Tempest, or rather Rimuru-sama. The right-wing troops are those who are willing to risk their lives for Rimuru-sama and this country. The left, in contrast, is a hodgepodge of different people with their own agendas. Some of them may truly have noble aspirations, but we didn't have time to conduct personal interviews, so we had to organize them like this. I see. Behind me, Xion and Diablo were nodding their heads in agreement. I could swear I heard them talking about disturbing things, such as how the left side were merely pawns waiting to be used and thrown away, or how they planned to hold trials in order to find the cream of the crop. But I must have been imagining things. So, the last question that remains is who we should appoint as the commander of each corps. This was where we finally got to the heart of the matter. Well then, let us begin with the Western Reserve Force. This corps was by far the largest. Its allegiance was with the Council, and its members were scattered all across the region. Looking at sheer numbers alone, this wing is a large army of 200,000 strong. That said, I do not intend to move the 150,000 soldiers of the Western Reserve, so they will be deployed where they are stationed. Benimaru revealed. I suppose, technically, they're a unit under the command of the Council, so we could move them at our discretion. But I believe there's no need to summon them here. Although, if they gather in one place, I could use my magic to teleport them all at the same time. If we moved 150,000 people simultaneously, just trying to manage, that would already be a gargantuan task. I had my doubts whether they'd be able to take proper military action until we set up a clear chain of command. It would be smarter to have strict security measures in place to prevent the Empire's spies from launching diversionary attacks in each country. I think so too, Benimaru agreed. Although it wouldn't be impossible for me to organize them with my power, I'll maintain the status quo as far as the Western Reserve Force is concerned. The Corps Commander is also absent, but I'm thinking of having Testarossa, the military attaché, take on that role as well. I think that's for the best, but if war breaks out, Testarossa may be asked to return home as well. I'm worried about whether or not they'll be able to keep in touch with each other when that happens. How would she keep in touch with the troops scattered throughout the Western nations? By using various means of communication, like magic communication, correspondence-specific transmission crystals, and a transmission web made of magisteel threads. A network had been successfully established between countries and their respective major cities. However, in towns and villages located in more rural areas, the deployment of the network was going at a snail's pace. I mean, it was the mission of our engineering unit to install them. There were wizards in each unit, so magic communication would probably get through. But, don't worry, Diablo reassured. Moss can handle a few hundred companies. Yes, I heard that from Soy too. Moss is working with him on intelligence, but he can also take care of inter-unit communication in his spare time, said Benimaru, voicing his support. Really, Moss, what a handy guy. Then, shouldn't Moss be the Corps Commander? I suggested. No, that would rather be bad for Moss. Indeed, given Testa's temperament, it would be rather miserable for Moss. Not that it's any of my business, but I do feel a bit sorry for him. Okay, let's appoint Testarossa as the Provisional Corps Commander then. Benimaru, not to mention even Diablo, felt sorry for Moss. Reading the room, I decided against giving the role to him. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you guys have not watched my other videos, then please watch them. The links are in the description. And don't forget to like, subscribe and press the bell icon so you don't miss the updates.